I was a middle school teacher today, and I had a student that I have frequently who is on her phone or looking in the mirror, brushing her hair, putting on her makeup, something, anything but doing her work. And so I, of course, had to take away her phone. But then she said, well, I'm trying to get a hold of my mother. And I said, okay, why would you get a hold of your mother in the middle of the school day? She said, well, because she's in the hospital. So, well, what is she in the hospital for? And she said, I don't know. I'm like, well, how do you not know what your mom is in the hospital for? And she said, well, I don't live with my mom. When my brother and I were little, my mother was a drug addict, and so they took us away from her. And then we went back to live with her, and then she married a gangster, and that was all bad. So then they took us away again. And so I don't live with her, and I don't talk to her regularly. So I found out she was in the hospital. I needed to know what was going on. I said, okay, well, I'll let you look at your texts on occasion here, but you need to be doing your work. So I'll hold on to your phone and then let you look at it. And she said, okay. But I was thinking about my other student who, well, I have a lot of students who are looking in the mirror and putting on makeup, but this one girl who does that all the time. And she last year got kicked out of one of my classes because she was being super, super, super uber duper mean to this one girl who was in the class, and nothing I said would stop her. So she ended up getting a referral, and then eventually she got kicked out of that class, not because of what she did with me, but because of all of her behaviors. But this year she seemed super mad at me over the whole thing, even though it had been, 6 months. But I had a talk with her and told her, I would defend you if somebody was being mean to you, and I'm not going to let you be mean to somebody else. And she kind of nodded, and then she said, okay. And I said, let's start fresh. And so she has, but then I see her looking in the mirror all the time. And I realized that vanity often is equal to insecurity. That those people who seem super vain are usually just really insecure, which for sure was true about me. Growing up, I was very insecure, and I was always looking in the mirror and always concerned about how I looked, because I just felt so insecure about myself. And people didn't help because they were always giving me their opinion, and usually it was negative about my looks or how smart I was. They would straight up call me ugly, dumb, tell me, oh, you're not so smart, or you're not funny. That's the worst one. Just kidding. But, I didn't feel like I needed to prove myself, because I didn't think I could. I agreed with them that I was those things. So I wasn't trying to prove them wrong. Oh, I'm not ugly, or I am smart, or I am funny. I just believed them. And then the people who said positive things about me, I didn't believe them. I believed the negative and not the positive. And I just discounted the positive. In fact, I would even tell people who were saying something positive about me, I would say, oh, yeah, I would just start pointing out my flaws to them and trying to convince them that they were wrong. So eventually they would just give up trying to say anything positive to me. And that just reinforced how I felt about myself. And there's a saying that says, argue for your limitations and you have them, which is exactly what I did. I argued for my limitations, and I owned those limitations, and I let them run my life. And another friend of mine, her name's Denise, and she said to me when I was like 14, she said, you're fighting a war against yourself, and you're sure to lose. And it wasn't for a few years that I realized the truth of that, because no matter who wins, if it's a war against you, somebody loses, and that's you too. So I set about trying to change that, because this wasn't a way to live, and it didn't help me to do anything that I wanted to do. I was always wanting adventure and just too afraid to do it or go on it or anything else. I easily owned the bad things about myself and thought I only had to do them once or twice for them to be true about me. But for anything good, I believed it had to be something that I was always. So I always had to be smart in order to be smart. There couldn't be any time I ever acted dumb or did dumb things, which of course was pretty frequently for me. But anyway, so, because, I am fairly spontaneous, so I would just spontaneously do dumb things. But sometimes they were fun, dumb things. And I thought that being insecure was also the idea of being humble. So after I became a Christian and I learned that we were supposed to be humble, I thought, well, insecurity fits right in there. Even though I didn't call it insecurity, now I called it humility. But being humble actually is being willing to be known and to know yourself for who you really are, and to allow God to know you for who you really are, and not to hide who you are, the good and the bad, the ugly and the beautiful, to allow those to be seen by others, and not to hide them from God, to allow God to know you and to set you free from the things that you need to be set free from, and to live in and move into all the things that he has called you to or created you to be. And not owning who I am, the good included, meant I couldn't step into who he had created me to be. I was always hiding from it through insecurity. And I realized along the way that I didn't have to believe it myself. I just had to believe that that's what the other people believed. Like, I don't have to believe I'm even ugly if somebody thinks I'm ugly. That's what they believe. But the people who think I'm beautiful, those, I can believe them too, and believe that they mean it, and allow that to sink in and kind of permeate my being, and accept it and receive it. And accepting and receiving is so important. I could just say thank you and not argue. Even if I didn't argue out loud, I would still argue in my head. And that's where I should learn, and have learned in some ways, but need to learn more, how to captivate my thoughts, and to accept and receive, and just say thank you even in my head, and let it absorb, and believe that what God says is true about me is true about me too, that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, because that's what his word says, that I am and that you are too, that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. I don't need to believe anything but that. And I can step out to do things with courage. Like, it takes courage to do that. It takes courage to get over insecurity and to move past it. And I can choose courage. I don't have to choose to hide and be cowardly. I can choose to be courageous and step out of my insecurity and to take those risks and be okay if I fail. Like, I don't have to be the best at everything to do it. A lot of times people have told me, oh, I will only do it if I'm excellent at it. But how are you going to ever get excellent at it if you don't do it? Like, you're just going to come out of the box excellent and only do those things? Well, that is so severely limiting. And what is the fun in that? What's the adventure in that, right? And at every life stage, I've had to kind of relearn these lessons, because when I was in middle school, I had to learn, in high school, I had to learn, and in college, I had to learn, and when I became a Christian, and that was really the big learning, because that's where I accepted that God believed these things about me, and I let it wash over me and sink in, and I was able to step out and do all kinds of amazing, crazy things, like be in an improv performance group and put on improv shows. And even though I definitely was not the star of those shows, but they were super fun to do, and they taught me a lot of things, that, especially things that I take into being a guest teacher, because it's a lot of improv, a ton of improv. And I can have fun doing it because it's so much improv. And then I was a hula dancer of all things, and I was dancing with people who'd been doing hula since they were 3, but it was super fun. And I learned a new dance form and got to meet all kinds of different people and learn the Hawaiian culture, and it was just really a great experience. I did that for like 7 years, and some of the people I met along the way were just really, really great people. But now I have this live stage where I'm doing videos and things like that. And of course, videos and photos are my insecurity. When I was in college, I used to be the historian of my sorority so that I was the one taking pictures and not somebody else, because I despise them. And so in the photo albums, I would put them together and put a page of every sorority girl. And my page was like practically nothing because I had so few pictures of myself, because I just couldn't stand it. And here I am, just doing it anyway. And I am choosing to be brave and choosing to take those thoughts captive, and hopefully helping people along the way to do the same, to take their thoughts captive, be brave, step out, take the risks, choose to be known for who you really are, and combat insecurity with humility. And if you see yourself being vain, like when I see myself being vain, I know that there's an underlying insecurity. And so I go and try to figure out what that is. And this one was more obvious, but sometimes it's not so obvious. Or when I'm jealous, what is my insecurity? Because jealousy is often about insecurity as well. So where's my insecurity? And what can I do to resolve that? Be brave. So I hope today that you get to choose being brave, taking those risks, stepping out of insecurity, and just saying thank you.